In the summer of 1997, a family set out on what was meant to be a joyful weekend getaway to Shasta Lake, California. The air was warm, the sun bright, and the promise of adventure loomed large as they loaded their boat with supplies, laughter echoing across the water. But in a chilling turn of fate, the family vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void that swallowed the hearts of their loved ones. For decades, the silence surrounding their disappearance echoed through the lives of those left behind, a painful reminder of the fragility of life and the uncertainty of fate. Years turned into decades, and with each passing year, the hope of finding them faded. The community mourned, the authorities investigated, but the case grew cold, buried beneath layers of unanswered questions and unyielding grief. But then, in early 2024, a startling discovery was made. A weathered rock etched with the names of the missing family. Suddenly, a glimmer of hope ignited anew, casting light on a case long shrouded in darkness. The resurfacing of these names sparked fresh inquiries, reopening the wounds of a tragedy that had remained unsolved for far too long. Among those left to grapple with this haunting mystery was Mary Thompson, the sister of one of the vanished. For years, Mary carried the weight of unanswered questions on her shoulders. Each night, she would lie awake, replaying the last moments before their disappearance, searching for clues in her mind that might lead her to answers. The discovery of the rock, bearing the names of her lost family, reignited a fire within her, a determination that had been simmering beneath the surface for decades. What happened to them, she often wondered, and why does no one talk about it anymore? As Mary began to dig deeper into the mystery surrounding her family's disappearance, she faced skepticism from authorities, who had long since moved on to other cases. The past was a daunting shadow, but Mary was undeterred. She knew that every detail mattered, every whispered secret could lead to the truth. Her quest for answers took her down paths she never expected, revealing a complex web of connections that linked her family to individuals and events previously unknown to her. With each new lead, Mary uncovered layers of deceit and hidden lives, revealing a dark side to her family's story that made the truth far more complicated than she ever imagined. The investigation would test her resolve, forcing her to confront not only the reality of what had happened, but also the unsettling truths about those she thought she knew. What could have caused her loved ones to vanish? Was it an accident, a tragic miscalculation, or something far more sinister? As Mary pressed on, the investigation led her to meet others who had been affected by the disappearances, witnesses who had seen more than they initially revealed, and individuals with motives that ran deep. As the pieces began to come together, the narrative started to shift. What had initially seemed like a straightforward case of a family lost to the lake's depths transformed into a complex mystery of hidden motives and dark secrets. Each revelation brought Mary closer to understanding not only what happened to her family, but also the lengths to which people would go to keep the truth buried. In her search for answers, Mary became a voice for the voiceless, refusing to let her family's story be forgotten. The rediscovery of the etched rock was not just a clue, it was a symbol of resilience and the unyielding bond of family that had been tested but never broken. Her journey would not only seek justice, but also serve as a reminder that the truth, no matter how buried it may seem, can always resurface. As we delve into this tragic yet compelling tale, we ask ourselves, how far would you go for those you love? Would you risk everything for the truth? Join us as we embark on the journey to uncover the secrets of Shasta Lake and the mystery surrounding the family that vanished in 1997. The echoes of the past are calling, and the quest for answers has only just begun. Mary's first step in her investigation was to revisit the scene where the rock had been found. The shoreline of Shasta Lake held memories both beautiful and haunting. As she stood there, she could feel the weight of her family's absence pressing down on her. The etched names were like a ghostly whisper, urging her to dig deeper. Determined, Mary reached out to local historians and experts in the area. She learned about the many stories and legends that surrounded the lake, tales of disappearances and secrets buried beneath its surface. Some believed that the lake itself held the answers, its depths concealing more than just water and fish. It was a graveyard of truths long forgotten. With the support of her friends and the community, Mary organized a meeting with the local sheriff's department. However, she was met with skepticism. The officers had moved on, their focus shifted to newer cases, and the cold case of her family's disappearance seemed to be just another unsolved mystery gathering dust in the archives. Mary felt the sting of their indifference but refused to back down. She presented her findings about the rock and the inscriptions, but the response was tepid at best. They assured her they would look into it, but offered no concrete plan of action. Undeterred, Mary turned to social media, sharing her family's story and the new discovery. She hoped that by reaching out to a broader audience, she might stir something within the public consciousness. As her posts gained traction, tips began to trickle in. Some were mundane, while others hinted at secrets lurking in the shadows of Shasta Lake. One particular message caught her attention. It came from an anonymous user who claimed to know about strange activities that occurred around the time her family vanished. They hinted at a gathering of people who had been known to engage in illicit activities near the lake. Intrigued, Mary pressed for more details but received only vague references to a secretive group that had ties to the area. With her heart racing, Mary began to follow the leads. Each new piece of information pulled her deeper into a web of deception. She discovered that several families had reported missing persons around the same time as her family's disappearance. Each case had been brushed aside, dismissed as either accidents or mere coincidence. Yet the connections between these families began to paint a darker picture. Mary was now navigating a precarious path, one that could lead to dangerous revelations. She knew she was getting closer, but with each new discovery, the shadows seemed to grow darker. As she pieced together the fragmented stories of loss, she found herself questioning everything. Were the people she trusted truly innocent, or could the very community that had once offered her solace be hiding a sinister truth? Just as she felt she was on the brink of a breakthrough, a chilling message arrived. It was a warning, urging her to stop digging before it was too late. The sender, unknown but clearly aware of her investigation, implied that there were powerful forces at play, forces that would go to great lengths to protect their secrets. In that moment, Mary realized the stakes had risen. The truth she sought was not just buried under the waters of Shasta Lake, it was entangled in a conspiracy that threatened her very safety. With a renewed sense of purpose, she steeled herself for the confrontation that lay ahead, knowing that to find her family, she would have to confront the darkness head-on. The unraveling of the mystery was imminent, but at what cost? As the pieces began to align, Mary understood that the path to justice could lead her into the very heart of the danger she had been warned about. Mary decided to follow the thread of her investigation deeper into the shadows. With each passing day, she uncovered more whispers about the past, a web of secrets that connected the disappearance of her loved ones to a series of unexplained events in the town. Her research revealed that the area surrounding Shasta Lake had seen a spike in criminal activity during the summer of 1997, but the details had been quickly swept under the rug. Determined to confront the truth, she reached out to old friends of her family, hoping to extract information that might have been overlooked or forgotten. Many of them were reluctant to speak, their eyes darting nervously as they recalled the dark days of loss. Yet one individual, an aging fisherman named Hank, finally broke the silence. He claimed to have seen something unusual on the night of the disappearances, suspicious vehicles parked along the water's edge and strange figures moving in the shadows. Mary's heart raced as she listened. Could this be the breakthrough she had been searching for? Hank hesitated, but eventually agreed to take her to the spot where he believed he had seen the activity. As they approached the shore, the memories flooded back, and she felt a palpable tension in the air. Something sinister lingered beneath the surface, echoing with the lost cries of her family. But just as hope began to swell within her, a shadow fell across her path. A local authority officer who had once dismissed her concerns intercepted them. With a stern warning and thinly veiled threats, he insisted that Mary cease her investigation. His demeanor conveyed a sense of urgency, as if she had stumbled too close to a truth that could unravel everything. With renewed determination, Mary refused to back down. She pressed Hank for more details, ignoring the officer's warnings. Hours turned into days as she meticulously mapped out the locations mentioned in Hank's account, piecing together a timeline that began to reveal a disturbing pattern. Yet, her relentless pursuit was not without consequence. Late one night, she received an anonymous phone call, the voice on the other end low and gravelly. "You need to stop, Mary. You're in over your head. There are things best left buried. Despite the fear that crept into her heart, she remained undeterred. If anything, the threats only fueled her resolve. She had come too far to turn back now. With a growing sense of urgency, she rallied her remaining allies, gathering evidence that could expose the truth. But what she didn't know was that the deeper she delved, the closer she drew to the very heart of the conspiracy. As she prepared to confront those who had silenced her family, a chilling realization settled in her gut. Some secrets were protected by more than mere silence. They were guarded by those who would do anything to keep the past hidden. As the pieces began to align, a storm was brewing on the horizon. The confrontation she sought was imminent, and with it, the haunting possibility that uncovering the truth could lead to devastating consequences. With every passing day, Mary felt the weight of her investigation pressing down on her. The anonymous call had shaken her, but it also ignited a fire within. She sought out local historians, scoured archives, and examined police reports that had long been gathering dust. Each new piece of information began to paint a sinister picture, one that suggested the vanishings were not merely an unfortunate accident, but perhaps a calculated crime. One evening, while poring over old newspaper articles in a dimly lit library, she stumbled upon a mention of a mysterious figure seen near Shasta Lake around the time of the disappearances. Eyewitness accounts described him as a drifter, someone who appeared at local bars, often speaking cryptically about the lake and its secrets. Intrigued, Mary felt compelled to follow this lead, determined to uncover the identity of this man. Her search took her to the small towns that bordered the lake, where she interviewed anyone who might remember him. Most locals were reluctant to talk, wary of reopening old wounds. However, one elderly woman, her voice trembling with age, recounted a chilling encounter. She spoke of a man with piercing eyes and a haunting smile, claiming he had warned her to stay away from certain areas of the lake. "He knew things," she whispered, "things about the water and those who went missing." Mary's heart raced. This was the breakthrough she had hoped for, yet it came laced with dread. The more she learned, the more dangerous her quest became. Late at night, she found herself glancing over her shoulder, convinced she was being watched. The unsettling feeling only intensified when she discovered that the drifter had vanished without a trace himself, just months after the families disappeared. As she pieced together the fragments of stories, a pattern emerged, hinting at a web of deceit that extended far beyond the lake shores. Mary began to suspect that the authorities may have known more than they had let on, possibly even protecting someone involved in the disappearances. With this growing suspicion, she prepared for the confrontation that loomed ahead. Driven by a mix of fear and determination, Mary contacted a retired detective who had worked the case years ago. She hoped he could provide insights that the official reports had glossed over. When they met in a quiet diner, his expression was grave. "People don't just disappear," he said, leaning in closer, "not without a reason. And sometimes when you dig too deep, you might unearth something that was never meant to see the light of day." Tension hung in the air as they discussed the possibilities. The detective shared a theory he had never acted on, a potential connection between the lake's secrets and a series of unsolved crimes in the region. "If you're onto something, Mary," he warned, "you need to tread carefully. This is bigger than you realize." Mary nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She could feel the storm closing in. As she prepared for her next steps, the world around her began to grow darker, the danger more palpable. With every piece of evidence she uncovered, she sensed she was moving closer to the truth and to a confrontation that could shatter everything she thought she knew. She had to decide how far she was willing to go to expose the truth, knowing that the answers she sought might come at a devastating cost. The storm was ready to break, and Mary could no longer ignore the chilling reality. Someone was watching her every move, and they would stop at nothing to protect their secrets. With every passing day, Mary's resolve grew stronger, but so did the shadows that loomed over her investigation. The detective's words echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of the peril she faced. Armed with the knowledge of the etched names, she found herself drawn to the history of Shasta Lake, its dark past woven into the fabric of her family's disappearance. Mary spent countless nights poring over old newspapers, connecting the dots between the lake and the crimes whispered about in hushed tones. She discovered that several people had vanished from the region over the years, their stories eerily similar to that of her loved ones. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that the disappearance of her family might not be an isolated incident. Determined to find out more, she reached out to local historians and survivors who had stories of the lake's treacherous waters. Yet, every conversation seemed to circle back to the same chilling refrain: some things are better left buried. Each warning fueled her fire but also deepened her anxiety. As she began to piece together the timeline of events from 1997, she learned about a group of individuals who had frequented the area around the time her family vanished. They were known to be involved in illegal activities, and whispers of their connections to the lake's secret sent a shiver down her spine. She felt the gravity of their potential involvement, but proving it would be another matter entirely. One evening she received an anonymous tip through a message on social media, suggesting that she should revisit the area where her family was last seen. The message contained coordinates, but no name. It was cryptic, yet Mary felt it was a sign she could not ignore. Heart racing, she gathered her courage and made plans to return to Shasta Lake. On the drive, her mind raced with possibilities. What if she uncovered something that had been hidden for decades? What if the coordinates led her to the truth? But what if it led her to danger? Each mile felt heavier as the reality of her mission settled upon her. When she arrived, the familiar landscape was both comforting and unsettling. The once serene waters now felt ominous, as if they were concealing more than just memories. Guided by the coordinates, she navigated the rugged terrain, her heart pounding with anticipation. With every step, she felt the eyes of the past watching her, urging her to uncover the truth. At last she arrived at a secluded cove, the water lapping against the rocky shore. She knelt down, scanning the area for any signs of what she had hoped to find. As she sifted through the dirt and debris, her fingers brushed against something cold and metallic. With a surge of adrenaline, she unearthed an old, rusted locket, its surface tarnished, but still intact. Inside, a photograph of a woman, strikingly familiar, stared back at her, a face she had only seen in faded family albums. Her heart stopped. This was someone connected to her family, a piece of the puzzle she had been searching for. But as she turned the locket over, a name was engraved on the back. It wasn't her family's name, but the name of one of the individuals linked to the criminal activities she had uncovered. The implications struck her like a thunderclap. This was no mere coincidence. The connection was undeniable, yet the danger was palpable. Someone had been here, and they were likely still watching. The storm that had threatened to break now loomed directly overhead, and Mary realized she was no longer just searching for answers. She was now entangled in a web of secrets that could cost her everything. As the wind howled around her, Mary felt a shiver run down her spine. She knew the confrontation was imminent, and the truth lay just beyond her grasp, waiting to be revealed. But at what cost? With the locket still clutched tightly in her hand, Mary returned home, her mind racing with questions. Who was this woman? How did she connect to the vanished individuals? And what danger had she unknowingly stumbled into? The weight of the mystery pressed heavily on her shoulders, but the fire of determination ignited within her. Mary spent the following days poring over old family records, reaching out to relatives, and piecing together the fragmented histories of those who had vanished. The locket had opened a door, but each step deeper into the past felt like a descent into darkness. She discovered that the name engraved on the locket belonged to a figure wrapped in infamy, a woman involved in a web of deceit whose life had been marked by scandal and illicit dealings. As Mary dug deeper, she faced skepticism at every turn. Local authorities, still skeptical of her claims after years of fruitless investigation, dismissed her findings as mere coincidence. They urged her to let go of the past, but Mary was resolute. She could feel the truth calling to her, and she refused to back down. Determined to gather more evidence, Mary approached those who had once known the woman in the locket. She visited old family friends, neighbors, and former associates. Many were reluctant to speak, their eyes clouded with fear or indifference. But Mary pressed on, driven by the hope of finding answers. Each conversation revealed layers of hidden tension and whispers of secrets. But still, the full story eluded her. Late one night, as she sifted through a trove of documents, a breakthrough arrived. An old newspaper clipping caught her eye, detailing a suspicious fire that had consumed a warehouse years ago, right around the time of the disappearances. The article mentioned a police investigation that had been abruptly closed, citing lack of evidence. But there was something more. An anonymous tip had been received, hinting at a connection between the fire and the missing individuals. Heart racing, Mary knew she had to follow this lead. She reached out to the journalist who had written the piece, hoping to uncover more details. The journalist, initially hesitant, agreed to meet, revealing that the tip had been traced back to a source who had gone missing shortly after. As the journalist spoke, Mary's mind whirled with the implications. This could be the key to unraveling the entire case. But as she prepared for this meeting, a chilling realization settled in. The deeper she dug, the more she felt the unseen eyes upon her. The shadows had grown longer, and the threats more tangible. Was someone trying to silence her? Just as she was about to make her move, an ominous feeling gripped her, a sudden sense that time was running out. Days passed in anxious anticipation as Mary prepared for her confrontation with the journalist. With each tick of the clock, the stakes escalated. She could almost sense the storm gathering, a perfect storm of truth and danger. And then, the unexpected happened. Just hours before their meeting, Mary received a chilling message. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." The sender was unknown, but the threat was clear. A cold wave of fear washed over her, but she steeled her resolve. She was in too deep to turn back now. The truth was waiting, and she would uncover it, no matter the cost. Mary took a deep breath, clutching her phone tightly, the weight of the threat sinking into her bones. But determination coursed through her veins. She knew the risks, yet the possibility of uncovering the truth about her loved ones pushed her forward. She had waited far too long for answers, and she wasn't about to back down now. As she made her way to the cafe where she was to meet the journalist, her heart raced. Each step felt heavy, burdened by the shadows of the past and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The familiar streets now seemed foreign, cloaked in a veil of apprehension. With each passing moment, she thought of her family, of the laughter that once filled her home and the silence that had followed their disappearance. Arriving at the cafe, she spotted the journalist sitting in a corner booth, his eyes scanning the room. He looked up as she approached, and the tension in the air was palpable. She slid into the seat across from him, her mind racing with questions. "I got your message," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "What do you know about the tip?" The journalist leaned in, his expression serious. "I was contacted by someone who claims to have seen something unusual near Shasta Lake around the time your family vanished. They were hesitant to talk, but they were terrified of what they might reveal. The person who went missing after that tip, it was more than just a coincidence." Mary's heart sank. The implications were staggering. What did they see? He hesitated, glancing around before continuing. "They mentioned a vehicle, a dark SUV parked near the water's edge. It wasn't an ordinary sight. They saw figures, people they couldn't identify, acting suspiciously. And then they heard voices, arguing. That was the last time anyone saw them." The journalist's words sent a chill down Mary's spine. This could be the breakthrough she needed, but it was also a horrifying reminder that her family might have been caught in something far more sinister than she had ever imagined. "What do you think it means?" she pressed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think it could indicate a cover-up," he replied. "But if that's true, someone is watching you. You need to be careful." Mary felt a knot form in her stomach. The walls were closing in, and the threat was no longer just a message on her phone. She had to find out who was behind this, but now there was an urgency to her search, a clock ticking down to an inevitable confrontation with those who wanted to keep the truth buried. After their meeting, Mary pored over everything she had gathered, old reports, witness statements, and now this new lead. She began to connect the dots, her mind racing with possibilities. If there truly was a dark figure orchestrating this mystery, it was only a matter of time before the truth would emerge. As night fell, Mary received another message, this one accompanied by a haunting image, a blurry photograph of her at the cafe, taken just moments before she left. The implication was clear. She was being watched. Mary's resolve hardened. She would not let fear paralyze her. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. The deeper she dug, the more tangled the web became. But she sensed that the next step could lead her directly to the heart of the mystery, a confrontation with the very forces that had stolen her family away. With each passing moment, She felt the weight of her family's history pressing down on her. The shadows were closing in, but she would confront them, no matter the cost. The truth was waiting, and she was determined to uncover it. Mary delved deeper into her investigation, meticulously analyzing the blurry photograph that had ignited her fears. The cafe where she had last seen her sister was a familiar haunt, a place filled with memories, and now, a place of dread. As she studied the image, a realization struck her. This photograph was not just a mere snapshot, it was a clue. It revealed the presence of a mysterious figure lurking in the background, barely visible but undeniably watchful. Determined to identify this shadowy observer, Mary reached out to her contacts, hoping to uncover any leads on the figure who had turned her life upside down. Her inquiries led her to a surveillance expert who specialized in enhancing low-quality images. Together, they painstakingly enhanced the photograph, revealing details that sent chills down Mary's spine. The figure in the background bore an uncanny resemblance to someone she knew, someone who had been part of her sister's life, her sister's boyfriend, Jack. As Mary dug into Jack's background, she discovered a complex web of deceit and manipulation. Jack had always seemed charming and supportive, but the more Mary uncovered, the more she realized that he had hidden aspects of his life. He had connections to unsavory characters, individuals involved in questionable activities that raised alarms in her mind. Could he have been part of something darker, something that led to her sister's disappearance? With a new resolve, Mary confronted Jack, demanding answers. The meeting was tense, a battle of wills as Jack's facade began to crack. He denied any involvement, but his body language betrayed him. Nervous shifts, darting eyes, and a palpable fear that hung in the air. In a chilling moment, he hinted at a secret her sister had been keeping, a hidden life that had spiraled out of control. "You don't know everything about her," he warned. "There are things you wouldn't understand." Mary's heart raced, grappling with the implications of his words. What had her sister been hiding? What secrets had she been entangled in? The truth was beginning to surface, but it was darker and more complex than she had anticipated. As she left the confrontation, a single thought loomed over her. Had her sister fallen into a dangerous world that led to her disappearance? The more she uncovered, the more she realized that every thread of her sister's life was intertwined with shadows, secrets, and the dark underbelly of a community she had never known existed. The tension thickened, and Mary felt as though she was walking a tightrope over a chasm of uncertainty. Would she find the truth, or would it consume her like it had consumed her sister? The search for answers was no longer just about closure. It had become a desperate race against time to unmask the truth before it was too late. As she pieced together this chilling revelation, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched again. The very forces that had taken her sister were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment they could strike again. Mary steeled herself for the next chapter of her investigation, knowing that the stakes had never been higher. Would she have the strength to confront the darkness that surrounded her family? Only time would tell. Mary dove deeper into the shadows of her sister's life, meticulously retracing the steps that had led her to this point. Each piece of the puzzle she uncovered revealed more about the hidden world her sister had navigated, a world that brimmed with unspeakable dangers and unforeseen alliances. The more she learned, the more it became clear that the people her sister had been associating with were not merely friends or acquaintances. They were enmeshed in a sinister web of secrets. One evening, while poring over old photographs and social media posts, Mary stumbled upon a name that sent chills down her spine: Alex. He had been a friend of her sister's, a figure who had surfaced in conversations, but whose presence had always been vague and elusive. Determined to find out more, Mary began to dig into Alex's background, uncovering a series of criminal activities tied to him and his associates: drug trafficking, money laundering, and a disturbing pattern of disappearances linked to them. As the evidence mounted, Mary felt a growing sense of urgency. She reached out to former friends of her sister, hoping to get a better understanding of her last days. One friend hesitantly revealed that her sister had been involved in something dangerous, something that might have led to her vanishing without a trace. The words hung heavy in the air, a haunting reminder of the risks that had lurked just out of sight. The more Mary pressed, the more reticent people became. It was as if they were afraid to speak, afraid of what revealing the truth might unleash. She encountered walls of silence, yet each small revelation only fueled her determination. She knew she was close, but the fear that enveloped her was palpable. With every new lead, she felt the weight of danger pressing down on her. One night, as she sat alone in her car, reviewing her notes, a shadow crossed her windshield. Her heart raced as she glanced up, only to find a figure standing at a distance watching her. Panic surged through her veins. Was this Alex, or someone else connected to her sister's fate? Without thinking, she fired up her engine and sped away, her mind racing with the implications of being so close to the truth and the potential threats that loomed just beyond her sight. Mary knew she had to confront Alex directly, to unearth the truth he had buried, but with each passing day, the danger grew. She could feel it wrapping around her like a noose. She planned her approach carefully, deciding to confront him at a local bar where he was known to frequent, a place steeped in the same shadows that had swallowed her sister whole. As she prepared for the confrontation, doubt crept in. Would she be able to face the darkness that had claimed her sister? Or would she become another name etched into the very rock she had unearthed? The stakes were higher than ever, and Mary was about to step into the abyss, unaware of the secrets that awaited her. What she didn't know was that not only would she face Alex, but also the truth of her sister's life, and the chilling realization that the answers she sought might forever change her. Mary arrived at the dimly lit bar, her heart pounding in her chest. The air was thick with the scent of spilled beer and the murmur of hushed conversations. She scanned the room, searching for Alex among the patrons. The flickering lights cast long shadows, and every face seemed to hold a piece of the puzzle she was desperate to solve. As she spotted Alex hunched over a table in the corner, her resolve hardened. He looked different now, older, wearier, yet there was something unsettlingly familiar about him. Taking a deep breath, she approached, her pulse racing with both fear and determination. "Alex," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. He looked up, surprise flickering across his face, quickly replaced by a guarded expression. "What do you want, Mary?" he asked, his tone icy. Mary felt the weight of his gaze, the intensity of the moment pressing down on her. "I want to talk about my sister," she replied, forcing the words through clenched teeth. He scoffed, the bitterness palpable in the air. "What's there to talk about? She's gone, just like the others." "Just like the others," she echoed, feeling the truth of his words slice through her. "But I found something that connects you to her disappearance." His eyes narrowed, and for a brief second, she thought she saw fear flicker within him. "You should let it go, Mary. Some things are better left buried." "Why? Why are you so afraid?" she pressed, her voice rising. "What do you know?" He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms as if to shield himself from her inquiry. "You really think you can handle the truth?" Mary's frustration boiled over. "I've been living with the uncertainty for years. Tell me what you know, or I swear I will keep digging until I find it myself." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and suffocating. Then Alex leaned forward, his expression shifting from defiance to something more vulnerable. "You don't understand. It's not just your sister. There are things, people involved, that go much deeper than you realize." Mary felt a chill run down her spine. "What are you saying?" He hesitated, glancing around the bar as if the walls had ears. "There are secrets out there, Mary, dangerous ones. If you dig too deep, you may not like what you find." "Don't threaten me, Alex," she shot back, her voice unwavering. "I need to know what happened." He looked at her, his eyes dark and filled with a mix of fear and regret. "Then you'll have to be prepared for the truth. It's not pretty." Just then, a group of rough-looking men entered the bar, their laughter echoing ominously. Alex's demeanor changed instantly, the fear in his eyes turning to panic. "We have to get out of here," he said, rising abruptly. "Why? What do they want?" Mary asked, confusion flooding her senses. "I can't explain now, just trust me." As he grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the exit, Mary felt a sense of dread wash over her. This was the moment she had been waiting for, yet it felt like she was being pulled deeper into a labyrinth of secrets and lies. Outside, the cool night air hit her like a wave, but the chill in her bones came from the realization that she was on the verge of uncovering something far darker than she had anticipated. "Alex, wait!" she called, pulling away from his grip. "You owe me answers. He hesitated, glancing back at the men now spilling out of the bar, their intentions unclear, but their presence threatening. "If you really want the truth, meet me tomorrow at the old warehouse by the lake," he urged. "But be careful. There are eyes everywhere." With that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving Mary standing alone in the night, her heart racing with both fear and anticipation. She knew this was the moment that could unravel everything, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. The truth was closer than ever, yet so was the threat that lingered just beyond her reach. As she walked away from the bar, her mind raced with possibilities. What would she discover at the warehouse? And more importantly, would she be prepared for the revelations that lay ahead? The answers she sought were just within her grasp, but the deeper she dug, the more perilous her quest became. The shadows of Shasta Lake whispered secrets that begged to be uncovered, but at what cost? The following day dawned with a heavy fog that clung to the shoreline of Shasta Lake, shrouding the landscape in an eerie silence. Mary's resolve was tested as she approached the old warehouse, the air thick with an unsettling tension. Each step felt like a descent into the unknown, her heart pounding with anticipation and dread. She arrived early, her eyes scanning the dilapidated structure, its weathered walls telling tales of forgotten times. Would Alex truly reveal what he knew? Or was this a trap, a dangerous game played by those who wished to keep the past buried? Minutes felt like hours as she waited. Finally, the sound of footsteps echoed through the stillness, and Alex appeared, his expression grave. "You came," he said, a hint of surprise mixed with caution. "I didn't think you would. I need to know what you found," Mary pressed, her voice steady despite the rising anxiety within her. "The rock, the names, what does it mean?" Alex glanced around, his gaze darting to the shadows as if he feared being watched. "It's more than just a memorial, it's a breadcrumb, leading to something much bigger than you realize. Those names, they're connected to a network of people who went missing, not just here but across the state." Mary's breath caught in her throat. "What do you mean? Are you saying this wasn't an isolated incident?" He nodded slowly, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. "There are rumors of a group that targets vulnerable individuals, disappearing them for reasons that are too horrifying to imagine. They might have been involved in your family's case." The realization washed over her like a cold wave. The thought that her loved ones might not have simply vanished, but rather been taken, a chilling truth she had not dared to consider. "Why haven't the authorities pursued this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Surely someone must have known." Alex leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Because some of them are involved. There are people in power who don't want this to come to light. They protect their own." Fear coursed through Mary, mingling with a fierce determination. "Then we have to go public. We have to expose them." He shook his head. "It's not that simple. They'll come after us. But if we want justice, we need to gather proof first, something undeniable." As they spoke, the sun began to break through the fog, casting long shadows that danced across the ground. Suddenly, the warehouse door creaked open, and a figure stepped into the light. It was a man she recognized, a former investigator on her family's case, someone she thought had disappeared from the scene entirely. "Mary," he said, his tone a mix of surprise and concern. "You shouldn't be here. This isn't safe." "What do you know about the names?" she demanded, her heart racing again. "What are you hiding?" His eyes flicked to Alex, then back to her. "You need to leave, now. You're getting too close." Panic surged within her. Had she unwittingly stepped into something much larger than her quest for the truth? As he moved to pull her away, Alex stepped in front of her, his expression fierce. "She deserves answers, just like you did once." The investigator hesitated, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. "You don't understand. There are forces at play here that you can't even imagine. Your family's case is just the tip of the iceberg." The air crackled with tension, and Mary felt the weight of secrets pressing down upon her. The truth was more intricate than she had ever envisioned, and as the confrontation escalated, she sensed the danger was closing in from all sides. "Tell me what you know," she demanded, her voice echoing in the stillness. But before he could respond, a loud noise erupted from the back of the warehouse, followed by shouts that sent adrenaline rushing through her veins. The shadows were stirring, and the moment of reckoning was at hand. Time was running out, and the answers she sought were slipping further from her grasp. The confrontation loomed, and it was clear that whatever lay ahead could change everything. The sound of commotion grew louder, reverberating against the walls of the warehouse. Mary's heart raced as she turned toward the source of the noise, her instincts screaming that she was teetering on the edge of something monumental. She could feel Alex's presence beside her, a steadfast ally amidst the chaos, but the uncertainty of their surroundings weighed heavily on her. "Mary, we need to move," Alex urged, his voice laced with urgency. But she couldn't leave now, not when answers were finally within reach. "What do you know about my family? About what happened at Shasta Lake?" she pressed, her voice steady despite the turmoil around her. The investigator's eyes darted between them, the tension palpable as he weighed the risk of revealing too much. "There are connections," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "Connections that stretch beyond your family. They're part of something bigger, a network that doesn't take kindly to those who dig too deep." Mary felt a chill run down her spine. The implications were staggering. Were her loved ones victims of a wider conspiracy? It was a thought that both terrified and emboldened her. Before she could question him further, the warehouse door burst open, flooding the dim space with light. A group of men entered, their faces obscured by the shadows they cast. Mary's breath caught in her throat. The urgency of the moment escalated as she recognized the danger that had just materialized. "Get down!" Alex shouted, instinctively pulling Mary behind a stack of crates. Her heart thundered as she crouched low, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She could hear the men talking, their voices gruff and commanding. "Find her! She knows too much," one of them barked. Mary's mind raced as she processed their words. Had they been following her? The realization sent a wave of dread crashing over her. She had stumbled onto a truth that someone was determined to keep buried. "This is it, Mary," Alex whispered urgently. "We need to get out of here." "They're onto you." But as she glanced at him, a flicker of resolve sparked within her. "No, I can't run. I need to know the truth about what happened to my family. I need to know who these men are." In that moment, the investigator's eyes locked onto hers, a mix of fear and respect. "You're more courageous than most, but you're also in way over your head." The men began moving further into the warehouse, their footsteps growing louder. Mary felt the walls closing in, but she couldn't allow fear to dictate her actions. "If they're looking for me, it means I'm on the right track. We have to find out why." With a nod, Alex understood her determination. "We'll do this together, but we need to be smart about it." As the men advanced, Mary noticed a flicker of movement on the far side of the warehouse, something glinting in the dim light. It was a small object, half hidden under a piece of debris. Her instincts kicked in, urging her to investigate. "Cover me," she said, her voice low but resolute. With careful movements, Mary crept toward the glinting object, her heart pounding in her chest. She could hear the men talking amongst themselves, their voices growing closer. Whatever she found could be crucial, a key to unlocking the mystery of her family's disappearance. As she reached the object, she crouched down and lifted it carefully into her hands. It was a small pendant, engraved with a symbol she didn't recognize. Her breath caught as she examined the intricate design, realizing it was similar to the markings on the rock that had been discovered earlier. "Mary, come on!" Alex hissed, his voice urgent. But she couldn't leave without understanding. The pendant felt heavy with significance, a piece of a puzzle she was desperate to solve. The sound of approaching footsteps drew nearer, and in that moment, a cold realization washed over her. The truth she sought was not just buried in the past. It was alive and hidden among those who were willing to do anything to keep it that way. As she clutched the pendant tightly in her hand, she understood that this was only the beginning of a confrontation that would challenge everything she thought she knew. The answers were within reach, but so were the shadows that had haunted her family for decades. And in those shadows, the real danger lurked, waiting for the right moment to strike. Mary's heart raced as she felt the weight of the pendant in her palm. The footsteps grew closer, each echo a reminder that she was not alone in her search for answers. She turned to Alex, urgency in her eyes. "We need to get back to the car," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. They retraced their steps, the pendant now a beacon of hope and fear intertwined. Back at the car, Mary's mind raced with questions. What did the symbol mean? Could it be connected to the strange disappearances at Shasta Lake? They quickly started their journey back, the pendant secure in her pocket, but the tension in the air was palpable. Once in the safety of the car, Mary couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The specter of the past loomed over them, and the further they drove, the more determined she became. She needed answers, and the pendant was the key that might unlock them. Days passed, and Mary immersed herself in research, poring over old news articles and connecting dots that others had overlooked. Each revelation built upon the last, reinforcing her belief that the pendant was not just a trinket, it was a breadcrumb leading her deeper into a labyrinth of secrets. She reached out to experts in ancient symbols, hoping they could shed light on the markings that seemed to echo from the past. As she waited for their responses, her phone buzzed with a notification, a message from an anonymous account. "Stop digging. You won't like what you find." Mary's skin prickled with dread, but it only fueled her determination. She shared the message with Alex, who furrowed his brow, concern etched across his face. "Are you sure this is worth it? Maybe we should involve the police," he suggested, his voice laced with worry. "No," Mary replied firmly. "They've already written this off as a cold case. If we go to them now, they'll think we're just chasing ghosts." She pushed herself to dive deeper. Each lead seemed to lead her to a dead end, but her resolve never wavered. Then she received a breakthrough. An expert finally responded, intrigued by the pendant and its symbolism. "Meet me at the old general store in Pine Ridge. I think I can help you," the message read. Anxiety mixed with anticipation as they made their way to the store, an abandoned relic from another era. The atmosphere was thick with nostalgia and foreboding, the air heavy with the whispers of what once was. Inside, the dust motes danced in the shafts of light that broke through grimy windows. They spotted the expert, an elderly man with sharp eyes that seemed to hold a lifetime of stories. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his voice low and gravelly. As they approached, Mary clutched the pendant tightly. The moment of truth was drawing near, and the air crackled with tension. "Let's see what you've got," he said, eyeing the pendant. With bated breath, Mary placed it in his outstretched hand, her heart pounding in her chest. "What you hold in your hand has ties to a much darker history than you might expect," he cautioned, his eyes narrowing. As he began to explain the significance of the symbol, Mary felt a chill run down her spine. The shadows of the past were inching closer, and the truth was becoming clearer yet more convoluted. This was more than just a family tragedy. It was a web of deceit that had ensnared many. And as she looked into the expert's eyes, she realized that the answers might lead her to people she never expected, people who would do anything to keep the past buried. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but with each revelation, the stakes grew higher. Mary was about to uncover the truth, but at what cost? The confrontation that awaited could shatter everything she thought she knew about her family and herself. As the expert detailed the origins of the pendant, Mary felt an unsettling mixture of hope and dread. The symbol carved into the metal was linked to a clandestine group that operated in the shadows of Shasta Lake, a network intertwined with disappearances and secrets that spanned decades. "Many believe this group still exists, and they have ties to those who vanished," he revealed, his voice a whisper, as if fearing someone might overhear. "If your loved ones were involved, they could have been caught in a storm far more dangerous than anyone imagined." Mary's mind raced. Could her family have stumbled upon something they weren't meant to see? She recalled the fragmented stories she had heard growing up, the hushed tones, the cautious glances whenever the lake was mentioned. Determined to follow this new lead, she began to dig deeper. With the expert's guidance, she unearthed documents and public records, piecing together the threads of a forgotten history. Each name she discovered was a ghost, lingering in the corners of her mind, their stories begging to be told. But as Mary reached out to others affected by the same dark fate, she was met with a wall of silence. The pain of loss had turned into a shield of mistrust. Many were reluctant to revisit their tragedies. Some even warned her to stop looking, claiming it was safer to let sleeping dogs lie. Yet with each setback, her resolve only strengthened. Mary began to connect with individuals who had seen glimpses of the truth. Whispers of hidden meetings and unmarked graves surfaced, leading her deeper into a rabbit hole that twisted through the heart of Shasta Lake's history. Then came the fateful night when she received an anonymous tip, urging her to meet at an abandoned cabin near the lake. The message was clear. The truth lies beneath the surface. Anxiety gripped her as she made her way to the secluded location. The darkened trees loomed overhead, a chorus of whispers echoing through the night air. Mary hesitated, but the thought of uncovering what truly happened to her family pushed her forward. As she approached the cabin, she noticed a flickering light from within. Her heart raced, an instinctual sense of danger prickling at the back of her mind. She took a deep breath and stepped inside, her hands shaking as she reached for the light switch. What she found within those walls was not just a meeting place, but a vault of the past. Clippings, photographs, and artifacts that told a story of betrayal and fear. And as she sifted through the relics, she heard a sound behind her, a creak of the floorboards that sent chills down her spine. Turning slowly, she faced a figure emerging from the shadows, their intentions unreadable. "Mary," they said, the voice familiar, yet distorted with time and secrecy. "You shouldn't have come here." In that moment, she understood. The confrontation was no longer a distant possibility. The truth was within reach, but so was the danger that came with it. Everything she had fought for, every secret she unraveled now hung in the balance, and the shadows that had haunted her family for years were poised to strike once more. Mary's breath caught in her throat as she processed the figure before her. It was someone she hadn't seen in years, someone whose presence in her life had always been marked by unease. The man stepped closer, his eyes glinting in the dim light, and Mary felt a surge of both fear and resolve. "Why are you here?" she demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. "What do you know about my family?" He chuckled softly, a sound that sent shivers down her spine. "You've been digging where you shouldn't. The past is a dangerous place, Mary. Some things are best left buried." Ignoring his warning, Mary pressed on. "I found the rock with their names. I know something happened here. You owe me the truth." His expression shifted, a fleeting glimpse of something akin to regret crossing his features. "Truth, or the illusion of it? You think you want to know what really happened? But some secrets protect us, just as much as they haunt us." Mary's mind raced. She had come too far to back down now. The new evidence she uncovered, the names etched in stone, could no longer be dismissed. "My family deserves justice. I won't let you intimidate me." His demeanor darkened. "Justice? You're playing a dangerous game, and the stakes are higher than you realize. You're not the only one searching for answers. There are others who wish to keep the past hidden, and they won't hesitate to silence anyone who threatens to expose it." Feeling the weight of his words, Mary's instincts screamed for caution. Yet the flickering light around them seemed to pulse with the energy of the past, urging her to confront whatever lay ahead. "If you know anything, you need to tell me. This isn't just about me, it's about all of them, the ones who vanished." For a moment silence enveloped them. Then he spoke, his voice low and urgent. "There are places in this world where darkness thrives, and they are not just memories. If you truly want the truth, you must be willing to face the consequences. But know this, the closer you get, the more perilous your journey will become." As he stepped back into the shadows, a new sense of urgency flooded Mary's veins. The revelation of a hidden danger loomed larger than ever, and her resolve only grew stronger. She had to unravel this web, even if it meant confronting the darkest corners of her family's history. She turned to leave the cabin, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Outside, the moonlight offered little comfort, illuminating the path ahead that felt laden with uncertainty. She knew that every step she took would lead her closer to answers, but also deeper into a labyrinth of secrets that had the potential to destroy everything she held dear. Back at her car, she rifled through the papers she had collected, piecing together a timeline of events leading up to the disappearance. Each document felt like a breadcrumb leading her deeper into a mystery that had long eluded resolution. The next step was crucial. She would need to confront the people who had connections to her family, those who had remained silent for too long. But as Mary began to strategize her next move, a chilling realization settled over her. Someone was watching her. A figure emerged in the distance, their intentions obscured by the night. She could feel her heart race as a sense of dread washed over her. This was no longer just about her family. It was a race against time, against forces determined to keep the truth buried. And as the figure drew closer, Mary braced herself for what was to come, knowing that the final confrontation was now imminent. She could no longer turn back. The truth was calling her, but it would demand everything she had to give. As Mary stood face to face with the shadowy figure, the weight of years of heartache and unanswered questions hung heavily in the air. This was the moment she had prepared for, the confrontation that would either unveil the truth or plunge her back into darkness. The figure stepped forward, revealing an unexpected identity. A person she once trusted, now a gatekeeper of secrets. With a calm yet firm voice, Mary demanded answers. As the tension mounted, the truth spilled forth, a tangled web of betrayal and hidden lives. Her loved one had been ensnared in a clandestine operation, a victim of circumstances far beyond what anyone had imagined. In a shocking twist, the person before her confessed not only to having knowledge of the disappearance, but to being complicit in a cover-up that extended into the depths of local corruption. They had orchestrated a narrative that ensured her family remained in the shadows, a conspiracy intertwined with the very fabric of the community they thought they knew. The realization washed over Mary like a wave, a mix of relief and heartbreak. She had unearthed a dark secret, a hidden world that had cost her family everything. With the truth now in the open, Mary took the courageous step to bring the evidence to the authorities. Finally, the wheels of justice began to turn. The arrests followed swiftly, the community left reeling as the real story emerged. Families, once divided by speculation and sorrow, now united in outrage and support. Mary found solace in knowing that her persistence had shattered the silence, paving the way for healing and closure. Yet, as she stood at her family's gravesite, the emotional weight of the journey enveloped her. She had sought justice, but at what cost? The truth had been revealed, but the scars of loss remained. This case serves as a powerful reminder that the search for truth often leads us down dark paths, revealing both the depths of human depravity and the resilience of the human spirit. In the end, it is not just about the answers we find, but the strength we muster to face the unthinkable. As Mary reflected on her journey, she understood that while justice could be served, the echoes of loss would forever remain. The quest for truth is a double-edged sword. It cuts deep, but it also has the power to heal. In a world where secrets fester, the courage to confront them can illuminate the darkest corners of our lives. Could the revelations of this case inspire others to seek the truth, no matter how painful it may be? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the fight for justice is far from over.